top 20 finalist, Olivia Exeminis.
Sapphire, I've heard government officials in the past 24 hours saying that China went around the world and vacuumed up the PPE around.
Every box has a mission: to protect everything inside from everything outside. When what's inside matters, count on boxes. Paper and packaging. How light?
I was reading about this guy named Bernie Krause. He records nature sounds for film and television, and he was saying that in 1968, in order for him to get 1 hour of undisturbed natural sound, like no airplanes, no cars, it would take him like 15 hours of recording time. Now, if you fast forward to the early 2000s, Bernie Krause said it took him 2,000 hours to get that same 1 hour of undisturbed sound. I can't even imagine what that number would look like today in 2020. It's because there's always so much noise, so much stuff going on around us. Have you ever thought about that in your own life? Like, how loud is your daily existence? How loud is your schedule, your social media feed? How loud are your roommates, your family, your organizations? Are you constantly surrounded by noise? There's so many distractions, so much pressure, so many expectations that are constantly just echoing in our head. Are you getting good enough grades? Will this look good on your resume? What social organizations are you going to be involved in? Will this internship make you competitive for that perfect job after graduation? What will people think if you're single again this summer? Our parents, our peers, our social circles, they're all creating noise around this idea that more is better, that faster is better. Go, 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 go. I feel like so often I'm running on a treadmill. You know what I mean? Like if I'm not seeing enough progress, just turn up the speed. Always moving, always chasing something. Life has become all about achievement, all about success. The idea of us slowing down for a minute, the idea of hitting pause, of being still, like honestly, it all kind of sounds like a waste of time. If we slow down, then we won't accomplish our goals, right? I mean, if we slow down, someone else is going to pass us by. Well, how's that working out for you now? You probably had big plans in January. For some of you, that was graduation. For others, it was a big spring break trip or getting involved in a new organization or ordering your Aggie ring. James 4 says this. It says, hey, look here, you who say today or tomorrow we're going to go to a certain town and we'll stay there for a year. We're going to do business and we're going to make a profit. How do you know what your life will be like tomorrow? Your life it's like a morning fog. It's here for a little while and then it's just gone. Can you see what's happening? All at once, every single treadmill stopped. And it's driving us crazy, right? All we know how to do is run and run, more noise, more schedule, more check boxes on our to-do list. We're so desperately wanting to fix this moment so that we can start running again. But I think that there is something deeper at play here. Earlier in James chapter 4, there's this verse, and honestly, I've never really thought about this verse until recently, but it says that God yearns jealously over us. Wait, what? You mean that the God who created the heavens and the earth, the God who holds the universe in the palm of his hand, who spoke and breathed the stars into existence, the God who holds all things together with his thoughts. That same God yearns jealously for you and for me. Maybe there's a bigger purpose to all of this. God yearns for our heart. He yearns jealously for our attention. There's this story in 1 Kings chapter 19, and it's about this Jewish prophet. His name is Elijah, and his life was full of noise. He knew the feeling well of constantly being on a treadmill. He had been going and going and going, and honestly, he was pretty much at the end of his rope. He was over it. He was totally stressed out. He was overwhelmed. He wasn't even sure if he wanted to keep moving forward. And if you look at 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 11 through 13, you're going to see this encounter between God and Elijah. And God says to Elijah, he's like, hey, go up on the mountain because I am going to show up. And so Elijah goes up on the mountain. He's worn out. And while he's up there, this wind starts blowing down the mountain and it shakes everything, shakes the whole mountain violently. But God didn't show up in the wind. And then there was this earthquake. It shook the mountain to its core, but God wasn't in the earthquake. And then a massive fire completely covers the mountain and consumes everything. But God wasn't in the fire. Then comes the still, small voice of God. You know, there's actually a lot of debate among scholars about what exactly the voice is that's talked about in this story of Elijah from 1 Kings. Some people think that the actual Hebrew word doesn't even refer to a sound that you and I can hear with our ears. It isn't even an audible noise. So some translators will translate this verse, this phrase, that God was in the sheer sound of silence. God wasn't in the wind. God wasn't in the earthquake. God wasn't in the fire. God was in the silence.
tension between them.
I was getting irritated. We were winning.
Was that uncomfortable? It was for me as I was putting it together. You know, this week I read that the average person is on social media 1 out of every 5 minutes of their day. And that studies show in 2018, Americans picked up their phone 52 times a day. You know what that number was in 2019? 96 times a day. That's why there are companies dedicated solely to putting filters on our devices so that we're forced to disengage with them for a while. I am so easily distracted by everything. So when it comes to spending time in silence and solitude, it is so hard. Why do I look for every reason to do anything other than be still and spend time with God in silence and solitude? What if we came to this place where we were only distracted by Jesus? Matthew 6:6 talks about what it looks like for us to pray and seek God in the stillness. I love the way that the Message puts this. It says, basically, here's what I want you to do. I want you to find a quiet, secluded place so that you won't be tempted to role play before God. Just be there as simply and honestly as you can manage. The focus is going to shift from you to God, and you will begin to sense God's grace. Just like Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I am God. Time with God is not wasted time. It's actually the best use of our time. I mean, God is the one that created time in the first place. Jesus already invited us into a place of rest. And so tonight I want to re-extend that invitation.